Good afternoon, folks. This is Deb, and today we're going to talk about two things with regard to Donald Trump and the GOP. So here we are. The government is still in shutdown mode, and the Republican Party is essentially missing in action. They are not working, okay? There is nothing in the government shutdown that prevents them from working, okay? They're not supposed to be on vacation, yet the statistics show that in the last 85 days, the Republican Party has worked 20 days. They are out of Washington right now, okay? The Democrats are there, the Republicans are not there, yet they're getting paid for every single day that they don't work, while millions of civil servants are working for no pay. So understand this. They are not in Washington for two reasons. Number one, they don't want to discuss the Epstein files. And they're not just protecting Donald Trump, they're protecting donors as well. Rich, wealthy billionaires and donors, okay? Because that's who's in the Epstein files, in addition to Donald Trump, okay? And they don't want to talk about health care, okay, which is why the Democrats have their heels dug in. Okay. So in case you don't understand what the conversation is about with regard to your health care, okay, let's talk about what the Democrats are demanding before opening the government. What they want is to keep 17 million people from losing their health care, number one, and number two, from keeping the costs that you will have to pay for your health care from going up. Now, we're not talking about a few bucks here, okay? The states are starting to release the numbers, okay? They're starting to release the numbers. So let's talk about it. If you've gotten your health care, if you're one of the millions of people who have taken advantage of Obamacare, okay, this is what's going to happen to your insurance premiums, okay? If the Republicans won't come to the table, and this is all the Democrats are asking for. They're not making any demands beyond saving your hide, okay? Understand what they're making us think about, and I'm going to give you the numbers on in some instances here right now, okay? Say you're a family of four, and you make $130,000 in your household in the state of Maine, and that means you add all together, all four of your incomes, okay? Whatever they are, mother, father, kids, whatever, okay? And you come to a total of $130,000 in family income. You'll be paying an extra $16,100 a year for the same thing you are getting right now, okay? It will be an increase. This is Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. This is exactly what we're talking about here. Okay, and maybe that doesn't sound so bad for a family of four making $130,000. So let's take two 60-year-old people, a couple, okay, making a total of $85,000 a year. Maybe one person's making 30,000 and the other person's making, 55,000, whatever. You're combining it. In the state of Maryland, your premium's going to go up by $13,700 a year. In Minnesota, $15,500 a year. In Nevada, $18,100 a year. And in Kentucky, $23,700 per year. These are the things that the Democrats want taken off the table so they can reopen the government. Donald Trump doesn't care about you, folks. Those are not exactly blue states, okay? All right? Kentucky's not a blue state. As far as I know, Nevada's pretty purple if it's not completely red at this point, okay? These are not all blue states. So anybody who thinks that this is just affecting liberal states like Massachusetts and New York and whatever, okay, Oregon, all right? It's affecting everybody. He doesn't give a damn about you. Okay? In fact, Caroline Levitt told us what his priority is right now, just the other day. We had Bimbo of the Month Club again. And his priority right now is his ballroom the big, beautiful ballroom. Okay? That's what he's focused on right now. He's not focused on bringing his little minions back to work. He doesn't care if they work because he's a dictator. He doesn't need these assholes. Okay? He just as soon not have them in his way. This works out perfectly for him. Okay? So his priority is his ballroom right now. And we'll talk about who's, I'm going to give you a list in this video in the description of who's paying for his ballroom. And all of these people have reasons for making donations to this ballroom because they can curry favors with the President of the United States with regard to tax breaks and regulations across the board. Big crypto companies donating money. How about Apple? You know what? This might be a good time for you to get rid of that iPhone. You know what? We have to take our power and use it, okay? Amazon. You still buying from Amazon? Why? There is anything that Amazon sells that they actually make, you can buy it somewhere else. You buy from Amazon because it's easy to sit down in front of a computer and buy everything you need from one guy, even though he's the biggest slime bag on the planet, a man who has bowed down to Trump several times. A man who stuck his $55 million wedding in your face, while guys like, while actors and actresses like Oprah Winfrey and the great Leonardo DiCaprio put his hat down over his eyes so you wouldn't recognize him there. The big environmentalist. They're all the same. Okay, they're oligarchs. They're wealthy. While they sat there and made gluttonous, I don't know what you even want to call it, lived high off the hog while people are starving, okay? The people in Venice didn't want them there. They made that clear. Yet Vanity Fair dedicated two issues to his wedding. I abruptly canceled my subscription, okay? I used to read them for their politics, but you know something? I don't need that. There are other places you can buy product than Amazon, but they're not the only people. They're not the only people. I have a complete list. This will also be in the description of the video. So let's talk about this for a minute. Because we had 7 million people on the streets for no kings, right? But before that day, we showed our power in a different way by getting Jimmy Kimmel put back on the air. That was the power of the people, making sure those who took Jimmy Kimmel off the air understood that they were going to cancel subscriptions and stop, being patrons of their business and their services. We can do this, okay, folks? We need to be doing this. We need to translate that 7 million people on the street into 7 million people wielding their power as consumers and wielding their power at the voting booth, because that is the only thing that's going to stop all of this. The only thing. If you sit at home again, shame on you again. In a bigger way this time. Because this is going to be it for this nation if he is reelected or if the Republicans retain power in the House and the Senate in 2026. Forget 2028. All right? There will be no election in 2028 if the Republicans retain power in 2026. If you can't see that now, then I can't help you. You should have seen it in November of 2025, of 2024, instead of sitting at home. The only landslide was for people who sat on their asses and didn't bother to go vote. Okay? 90 million people. That's more than voted for either Harris or Trump. 90 million. Okay? So let's talk about something else Donald Trump doesn't care about. Is food insecurity in the United States of America. While he's worried about, his now $300 million ballroom, which started as a $200 million ballroom, and it wasn't going to deface the White House at all. The White House now is being torn down. Okay? And I'm not talking about just the Rose Garden, which looks like a Mar-a-Lago patio now. Okay? Which is all cracking, by the way, and looking like shit because Donald Trump cuts corners everywhere he goes. Now we have, people knocking down parts of the White House so he can add his ballroom. Hold 999 people. Okay? Do you think of 999 people who would want to spend fucking time with him? I can't. And if they're there, there's something wrong with them. Okay? So let's talk about food insecurity, because he doesn't care about the fact that he is taking $500 million out of the emergency food assistance program, okay, which was created in 1983 to purchase farm supplies, farmers surplus food to distribute it to low-income people through food banks, okay? He called the money that Joe Biden allocated to it last year Biden's a Biden era slush fund, okay? And he cut the money. Something he's also not supposed to do. But it doesn't matter because there's no accountability for Donald Trump in America. Unless the people make him accountable, okay? Here's, again, just an example of what this means. By the way, we have now veterans in line at food banks, okay? The poor people who can't afford food haven't gone away, okay? They're just not getting as much food. In the richest nation in the world, we have food insecurity. I simply don't understand it. But let's talk about this, okay? And again, it isn't just blue states. In Massachusetts, I'll start with a blue state. We've lost $3.4 million, okay, in food bank money, okay? Let's give some numbers here. And I'm going to put a ProPublica article in here that's going to describe all of this for you, okay? I urge you to read, please, okay? 1,200 gallons of 2% milk to God's Pantry Food Bank in Kentucky was cut. That's one of 25 canceled deliveries. 28,520 pounds of chicken legs to the food bank for the Heartland in Nebraska was cut. That's one of 21 deliveries. They go on. They go on and on, okay? They go on and on from there. It just doesn't stop. There is an entire, if you can see the graphic that's produced in this ProPublica article, you will know it, okay? And because the Republicans won't come back to talk about reopening the government, funding the government on November 1st, anyone who was on food stamps, SNAP benefits, they run out November 1st, okay? And according to Heather Cox Richardson, who is a historian of great note and of great intelligence, if that happens, we will be experiencing the most mass hunger suffering in the U.S. since the Great Depression. Okay? Your food stamps will not come after November 1st because the Republican Party is refusing to come back to work. They could be there working through the shutdown with the Democrats, talking about what they're going to fund. But Donald Trump has made the largest cut to food stamps in American history under the big, beautiful bill. That's another part of the bill that's going to hurt people. I'm not sure that anyone understands this, okay? But these are real world problems for a large percentage of the American people. The only people who don't suffer under Donald Trump's regime are the people who are wealthy, the people who make more than six figures, who can afford to pay for their own health care. They don't have to worry about rising premiums, okay? The Jeff Bezoses, the Elon Musks, the people who literally run this nation under Donald Trump. Wake up, America. This is who the Republican Party is. You're looking at the Republican Party, whether it's House or Senate, whether it's Lisa Murkowski or Ronnie Jackson, whether it's Susan Collins or any other slug from the Republican Party. This is your GOP. This is what you voted for. This is what you voted for. The 77 million people who voted for Donald Trump, you voted for this. And the 90 million people who stayed home might as well have voted for it. because this could have been very different had you shown up at the polls. This is what you voted for. The man who is destroying this nation. The man who is literally making this a playground for only the oligarchs and the wealthiest of people, who has absolutely no use for middle class America and has even less use for the poor. A man who has, who is in favor of income inequality so he can continue the destruction of the middle class. And we can move more of those people into utter poverty. Understand where we are in America and wake up. I will talk to you all later.